Um, there we go. Thank you so much. So just some housekeeping items, and I'll pass it on now to Asita, who will walk us through the agenda and introductions.
Thank you so much, Rebecca. Thank you all for joining us today. I would like to take a few more moments to introduce you to the Immigrant Senior Sector Connections and share the journey that led us here. As you know, like, my name is Azita Afshanajad, and I oversee the one-on-one counseling program for immigrant youth and seniors at SIVA. Our initiative began with the aim of addressing the unique challenges faced by immigrant and refugee seniors, recognizing a gap in service tailored to this group. We formed the Immigrant Senior Circle, also known as the Immigrant Senior Connection, to provide comprehensive support and foster a sense of belonging. Based on a few focus group that we had with our clients, senior clients, we identified several unique challenges faced by immigrant seniors at different stages of their settlement journey. I just want to just share very briefly what was the challenges when we did that focus group. We divided to two different newcomer seniors, but when one was like new immigrants, like between 0 to 1 year, and then the other one was like intermediate immigrants, 1 to 10 years. And the challenges were like for the very new immigrant, language barriers, access to social services, transportation, settlement, psychological adoption, employment difficulties. And for the intermediate immigrants were continued adoption challenges, potential isolation as in initial settlement support decreases, need for long-term community integration strategies. We approached Healthy Aging Alberta to unite all immigrant senior sectors and collectively address these challenges. Our goal is to create a supportive network that helps immigrant seniors thrive. Our group is led by Siva, myself, and Rebecca. You already met Rebecca, thank you, the outreach manager at Calgary, Immigrant Service Calgary, and we aim to collaborate with other immigrant sectors to offer services that address the specific needs of immigrant and refugee seniors. And thank you, I will give you time to introduce yourself, where are you from, and which organization, and if you want to share more about yourself and your program, we're happy to hear that. Thank you. I can pass it in my screen after Rebecca, maybe Dr. Yeah, I have the bio of Dr. Joudi that I will share with Elizabeth, but maybe we can, I can pass it. Rebecca, you want to, I don't see the, sorry.
Rebecca, can you remove the screen share and then we can see everybody?
Yes.
Yeah.
We're doing the circle intros.
Here we go.
I can pass it to Jing, like whoever I see in my screen, and then everybody can pass it to other person. Thank you.
Who are you passing it to? Sorry.
I passed it to Jing. Was it Jing here? I saw. Okay.
Do you mean me?
Oh, yes,
so
yes.
Please,
yeah.
he's doing introductions of everybody in the room. So please introduce yourself.
Okay, yeah, this is Jean. I'm from Center for Newcomers. I'm a manager of a newcomer settlement program. We have an SP, that's a newcomer settlement program, senior program. So we're providing settlement services to seniors. Most of them are newcomers. We focus on PR, permanent residents. We are helping them to apply for all kinds of seniors benefits and providing information of seniors housing and food bank, seniors bus pass, something like that. Yeah, thank you very much, and I'm very happy to be here today. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks so much. Yep. maybe, yeah, I think I can ask for Parminder. Maybe you can introduce yourself.
Thank you, Azita. So first of all, sorry, my camera is not working today. So I'm Parminder Gill. I'm working with Immigrant Services Calgary as a Gateway Newcomer Planner, but specifically with Seniors Program. So I am working since very, very long time, since 2012 with Immigrant Services Calgary. And our main focus is like we provide services 55 and older clients. We have weekly classes, informational workshops, and one-on-one counseling as well. And we provide community-based referral based on their needs. So yeah, thank you so much.
Do you want to pass it to somebody?
Sure, I can. If I can see the list, okay. Maybe Karen King. Karen.
Hi there.
All right. Hello.
I'm Karen King, and I work at Healthy Aging Alberta. I'm in a coordinator position there, sort of supporting the teams and all the work they're doing. And I also sort of have come from experience with carya, with their older adult programs, their outreach programs. And I just was part of this group for a while because Stephanie was away and I got to help the group out. And I just wanted to come back again and hear and learn more.
Thank you so much. Okay.
I'll pass it to Elizabeth.
All right, had to unmute myself. Thank you, Karen. I'm going to probably spend some time introducing myself here shortly after Dr. Joudi, so I won't spend a whole lot of time right now. But hello, everyone. My name is Elizabeth Lee, and I am the newly appointed, I guess almost 3 months now, education coordinator with the Alberta Elder Abuse Awareness Council. So we'll chat a little bit more in a while.
Yes, thank you. Thanks so much. Maybe I can just ask people like Joudi, if you can introduce yourself, please.
For sure. Janine, Alzheimer Calgary. Some familiar faces on here. My role is DI engagement coordinator. So looking at what barriers people are facing, and we know newcomers, like you were saying, face a lot of barriers. So we want to make sure that we're connecting and having relevant education. And new gateway partner, that's exciting. And we were just in Grandma's Kitchen, which, yeah, we're going to be back in August. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And Nora?
Hi everyone, I'm Nora from CCECA, the Calgary Chinese Elderly Citizen Association. Sorry that I'm not able to open my camera, but our senior center are mainly focused on serving the Chinese senior, also the newcomer. Yes, so very happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks. Shubha? Please.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. I'm with Caregivers Alberta, and then we are helping for all those caregivers who are not necessarily seniors, just for everybody who is caring for their loved ones, like family caregivers. We have a lot of programs. It's a one-on-one coaching program, and then group support and educational campus program. We have it, and we are just finding resources for the caregivers and navigating all those challenges and how we can support them. That's our role. So I was happy that I attended the first one. It was so good, and this Grandma Kitchen was fantastic. I really wanted to connect back and come just join in here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much.
No problem.
Thank you. And Yudha? Sorry if I just pronounce, I don't know, sometimes they pronounce very correctly. But...
So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Yoda. You corrected it rightly. So I'm here representing Nepalese Community Society of Calgary. I'm working as a project coordinator over here. And our organization has been working in providing support settlement and integration service to Nepali and Nepali speaking Calgarians. And we have history of operation since 2004. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Mainly.
Thank you, Azita. Hi, everyone. My name is Ming Li. My role is coordinator of pursuit of happiness for immigrant seniors at SIVA. And also, I'm the previous team member of Azita. I worked as a senior counselor at One Counseling Program. So I feel like I have a strong connection with the senior immigrants. And I'm pretty new for this project. So that is a project to promote and support seniors to age well at home and in the community. We provide workshops to teach them skills as well as resources. Yeah, so here I really look forward to learn from everyone. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Eugenia, did I pronounce it correct? Sorry.
It's okay. It's
Yeah,
Eugenia, but it's okay.
Eugenia, I'm so sorry about that.
It's okay. So my name is Eugenia. I am with Women in Need Society, WINS. I am a program facilitator there. I've been working with WINS about 2 years and recently created a program for seniors called the Golden Club. And this is a program more for socializing and combating isolation of seniors. I started it about 3 months ago, so it's very recent. But yeah, I am happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And Yao, my team member.
Yeah. Thank you, Azita. So my name is Yao. I am a one-on-one counselor for seniors here in Siwa. I work for Azita and here with my colleague Zaina as well. And Min, also our colleague, right? You're part of the team. I'm so happy to be here today because I've seen the core group, like I see the establishment of the team, the core group. And I have a very strong feeling that I kind of find the sense and meaning of this group because that's our initiative, like our original goal is to put all the service providers together, and together we can achieve something more and to serve immigrant seniors. And I'm so happy that we already have something built up with so many organizations and peers in our area, Janine, Jean, Min, and Dr. Joudi. I think that is so amazing that we have so many resources to share and use, right? To really utilize the services here. And I believe that with more and more service providers coming into this group, I think it's gonna grow bigger and bigger, and we can together we can make something happen for the seniors, immigrant seniors. Yeah, nice meeting you all. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Sorry, Dr. Joudi, I just passed it because in my mind, like I was going to introduce you, but if you want to briefly just say hi, and then I can definitely introduce you to the group.
You're absolutely fine. Don't worry about it at all. Thank you so much for inviting me. I just realized my earrings are so bright.
It's so
right now.
Good. I love
wow, they're bright. They're really bright. But I'm channeling summer, hopefully. My name is Dr. Rose Joudi, and I'm always very honored and delighted to see your faces and your names and to share and converse in all things related to our older adults in the province. So thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. Thanks. And maybe Stephanie, I will leave you for the last one because you want to talk about, or you want to just, you just go ahead, and then we have one more, I think, right after you.
I think there's a few that still haven't gone. But yeah. Anyway, Yes, I am Stephanie Bansky. I'm Engagement and Communication Specialist here at Healthy Aging Alberta. So my colleague Karen introduced us a little bit here, but Healthy Aging Alberta connects the sector, and our mandate is to bring together the different community-based senior serving organizations across Alberta so that we can talk about these common issues and mobilize action together as a collective, right? And see where the needs are. So with this, we have the variety of core groups because the core platform is under us. So Core Alberta, and if you haven't been on Core Alberta, please go. That platform is managed by us, but it's for community by community. So it's a space where you can post resources you have, you can find out more information and reports and participate in things, toolkits. There's lots of different resources on Core. And then we have the core groups such as this one, which is the Immigrant Senior Sector Connection. So we have all of our past recordings in there if you're coming in new. And we have space to share things with each other in that space. I'll share the link in the chat. We also, as a note, Elizabeth and Dr. Rose are also leads of the elder abuse, or they're part of the elder abuse group. I guess, Rose, you're not really a group lead for that group, but you just present all the time.
Not yet.
So we do have some really, if you're really passionate about this theme of elder abuse, we have another group around that. And I will post in the chat some of our previous sessions we had. We did have one very recently about elder abuse in diverse populations that I can put the recording in the chat here for you folks to see. But that is me, and I will pass it on to Rebecca. Have you introduced yet?
I think I did a short one at the beginning, but yeah, as Ita mentioned, I'm the outreach manager at ISC. I've been with ISC for a long time, 15 years, more than I like to admit. And generally the outreach portfolio is all demographics all across the city, kind of connecting with newcomers and raising awareness about the supports that are available. Doing a lot of these collaborations with different partners in the sector. So it's always exciting to see and meet new faces, and supporting our immigrant senior program here, the Calgary Immigrant Connections. Oh my gosh, CISP program. Parminder's gonna kill me because I butchered our name. Community Initiatives for Immigrant Seniors, which is funded by the City of Calgary here at ISC. Always excited to do any initiatives with them. They're so fun and engaging and engaged. And I love getting that energy and being part of their initiative. So I'll pass it on. I think, Zaina, did you have a chance to introduce yourself?
Not yet, yeah.
Not yet, yeah. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much. My name is Zaina, and I work with Azita and Yao as a one-on-one counselor for youth and seniors. So yes, I'm the extreme, and on the extreme sides of the age gap, but I enjoy working with both the groups. And as Yao mentioned, like this platform is just amazing to connect with to all of you. And we've already made our connections with people like Janine from the last time, and they've come to Grandma's Kitchen. It has been so amazing, and I look forward to learning from all of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I think everybody, did I miss anybody? No. Oh. Yao, you wanted to say something?
Yes, I just want to add one thing and one question. So one thing I would like to add is like, even we probably don't know each other right now. Actually, there is something going on with our interagency. Like Nora from CCECA, yes.
Yeah.
So I believe that you have a long-term relationship with carya, right? So last year we had a kitchen event for the seniors collaborating with
Yes.
carya. So you see, I think this is a very good platform and opportunity for us to, get to know each other, and it's really wonderful. That's something that I want to add to make my point. And I do have another question for Eugenie. Oh, unfortunately, she's not here now. Okay, yeah, I'll probably when she come back, I'll just send her a message. I would like to ask her, like, is she working for a specific ethnic group? Yeah, that's all I need to add. Thank you. Sorry to take it.
Thank you. No problem. Thank you so much. I think we can just now, we can go with the presentation. I would like to introduce you to Dr. Rosie Joudi, PhD in psychology. Dr. Joudi brings over 15 years of experience and expertise as an aging and ethnic diversity researcher and consultant. She's currently the research lead on an ethnocultural elder abuse awareness project with carya and teaches at Mount Royal University on the psychology of aging. And Dr. Joudi contributes valuable insight to the field through her background in academia and research. She also collaborates with the stakeholders to address the unique needs of older adults in diverse population. Committed to enhancing seniors' quality of life, she actively promotes education strategies and facilitates training sessions, including elder abuse awareness, ageism, trauma-informed care, and cultural compassion when working with diverse population. Rose also believes in empowering professionals to adopt inclusive strategies, ensuring a person-centered approach to care. She's also a board member of the Canadian Network for the Prevention of Elder Abuse and serves as an advisor for the Ministry of Seniors, Community and Social Services in Alberta. Over to you, Dr. Joudi. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I will start sharing my PowerPoint slide and I will put it in fancy mode. Thank you. I'm assuming you can all see it, but you can't see my notes, my cheat sheet notes. No? Okay, we're good. I don't really have cheat sheets. I think I've talked about ageism so many times that I can probably be talking about ageism in my sleep, but it's a very important topic and I appreciate the opportunity to share some of this information with all of you. And I know all of you have already had various experiences working with older adults, but also experiences with the challenges that come with stereotypes, regardless of what those stereotypes are and how they can become barriers hindering the advancement and the well-being of your clients that you're all dedicated in supporting and helping. One of those challenges is how society, and predominantly Western North American society, views older adults. That's basically what the conversation is going to be about today. It's about ageism and how some of these stereotypes actually hinder the well-being of older adults and how sometimes being more aware of the biases that we carry might help us in the way that we're approaching and working with and dealing with our older adult clients. So today is going to be one of those conversations where there's a lot of me asking you questions and also testing you as well, because I am an academic too, so I like to kind of make people who listen to me a bit anxious. So what is the first thing that comes to mind when you think about growing older? And this is a personal reflection of yours. So if you could share it in the chat. I can't see the chat, so I'm hoping that Stephanie probably can help me with reading the comments. The first thing that comes to mind when you think about growing older?
Wisdom.
Wisdom, great. And yes, you can also definitely use the mic, of course, as well.
I'm reading out the chat for you.
Oh, okay. I thought you were like, oh, Stephanie, wisdom.
No, that comes from Janine.
Okay, fantastic. What else?
Health.
Help?
Health.
Oh, health. Okay, great. What else?
Illness. Sad face.
Yeah.
Experiences. Experienced. Loss and grief.
Yeah.
Isolation.
Are we good with the comments right now? But you know, any kind of reflection, even if it comes later on, please feel free to share that. So the reason why I kind of started the conversation with getting you to think about what you think about when you are considering growing older, or maybe foresee yourself as an older person, or see an older person and you start thinking about yourself, or a family member that you have and think about yourself when you're that age, for example, is because it's really important for us to understand what sort of thoughts do we have ourselves about ourselves growing older, because that kind of sets the stage to how we are potentially going to interact with older people and older clients as well. So as per usual, I kind of start with the conclusion and the ending of my presentation first, because usually I talk too much and I don't get to that point. So we do know from research that North American societies, loosely I want to call Western societies, some European societies included, they are age-fearing societies. So Canada, the US, for example, they're both age-fearing and they're also death-fearing as well. And by that, what we mean is that those are the conversations that generally we don't really feel as a society, as a larger society, uncomfortable talking about. Talking about aging and growing older is something that is avoided because it tends to be something that we're not comfortable with, because again, we are youth loving as societies too. We look to looking youthful, dressing in a youthful way. I mean, the United States in particular is, you know, parts of the United States are leaning also towards surgeries to remain looking youthful. So that youth loving environment that we create potentially, what it does potentially promote is that the association between being youthful and young and being able to be stronger, or being more capable, or having more value, being more productive, having more worth, having more to give as a youthful or younger person. And we associate everything else, and in particular older adults, with the other stuff, the lesser value, lesser worth, less productivity, nothing to look forward to or give back to society. And as a result, we tend to segregate older adults as well from society too. The death-fearing component is another stigmatized topic that as a Western society, we're not really comfortable talking about. And usually that's because we see it as a very negative, a taboo or a stigma kind of topic that we don't feel comfortable with, because why be pessimistic? Why are you talking about death, for example, especially if you are tending to be a younger person who's healthier? What I'm finding is that the more we're avoiding talking about uncomfortable topics, including elder abuse, for example, is that we become more anxious, more unprepared, and ill-formed and uneducated about how to address these conversations on a professional level, on a personal level, on a larger mainstream level as well. I teach at the university and my students are around 18 to 22, and I find that they struggle immensely with these conversations. And that's because they're raised in households or home environments or family environments that doesn't feel in itself comfortable talking about these things. So you're about 18, 22, more and more of my students are not or have never attended a funeral, a memorial, whatever you want to call it, because they've been prevented or not encouraged by their family members to attend these things. And then if they have a family member who's, let's say, at palliative care or is in hospice, for example, these younger people are more likely to avoid visiting those individuals because they are uncomfortable they don't know what to say. What am I supposed to say to somebody who's going to die or has only a few weeks or a few months to live? And so because they're afraid of, or they're unprepared for these conversations, we have not prepared our younger people to have these conversations. They tend to avoid having them at all sometimes, really. So with this age-fearing environment that we're doing, the more we glorify looking youthful and younger, the more what we're doing actually is we're telling our younger adults, including our children, that being old or older is not something to look forward to, or it's not a valued stage of our human lifespan. Or when you do get older, you are not expected to have any form of productivity or worth. And that is something that is really detrimental. It's immensely negatively detrimental on our generations that are coming after us, on our children, and on us as a society. Because even right now, if you even aren't in that, let's say, 65 category of an older adult, if you've already created this perception that being an older person is not something to look forward to, you're already going to be potentially more or less preventing your own self from thriving as an older person when you do get to that level. And when we talk about ageism, we actually hook it into the conversation with elder abuse, and they're both the two faces of the same coin, as they say. When you're assigning a lesser value to a group of people because of how old they are, and in this situation, older people, you're opening then the doors to them being mistreated, abused. You're turning a blind eye to when it happens, but you're also finding a lack of resources and funding and interest in creating programs and services or putting money in places where older adults could potentially thrive in if there was funding there. You find a lot of the funding potentially might go to, a lot of the resources might go to programs that promote or enhance the quality of life of younger people, including children, and not as much resources or interest in developing programs catered towards older adults. And even if you do have programs catered for older adults, they're not the fun programs. They're not as innovative or creative, let's say. And that comes to also us stopping asking older adults, what do you want to do? What do you want to be when you grow older? There's this assumption that when you have a child, and I have 3 children, you ask them when they're 6, 7, or even when they're 18, what do you want to be when you grow older? Where do you want to go? University or school or whatever it is. We're curious about where they want to go and how they want to thrive in that journey of theirs. But how many of us have actually asked a 50-year-old, what do you want to be when you grow older? Knowing that our average life expectancy in Canada is around 80, which means you have 30 more years of life to live and life to give as well. But we actually don't ask a 70-year-old or a 90-year-old, what do you want to do? What do you want to be? Because of that assumption is that they've done all they wanted to do. They've been all that they want to be. But you never stop wanting to live a fulfilling life and to have something that gives you purpose and meaning in life. And that's one of the things that ageism does do. It stops us from really being curious about older people and how we can enhance their quality of life and how we can promote that purpose and that meaning in their life as well. Just because somebody is 100 years old does not mean that they have nothing to give. And it doesn't mean that they've stopped wanting. And in fact, just last week, I had this ageism conversation with a group of Silvera for seniors, older adults. And one of the people there was 100 years old and full of life, very curious about ageism, and asked quite a few questions and was very responsive to some of these questions that I had. What do you want to be when you grow older? Right. And of course, everyone laughed. But she said, I want to still be here, and I want to be with my grandchildren and my great-grandchildren. That is something that gives her purpose. That gets her out of bed. That makes her look forward to being alive, right? And I think that's one thing that we need to continue to be curious about is what is it that can get our older adults to us or getting them out of bed. So has anyone here ever lied about their age? And again, you could use the mic or you can in the chat. Anyone ever lied about how old they are? Someone asks you, how old are you? Are you comfortable saying your age?
So Janine has mentioned that they said they were older when they were young and working in banking. They added to their age.
Yeah.
Tatiana has not had the opportunity yet to lie about their age.
Has anyone made a comment to you, or have you heard someone make a comment to somebody that you know about being too old to do something, or too young to know or do something?
There's another not yet in the chat.
Yeah.
And an oh yes.
I wonder who that's from.
That would be from Karen. And you don't look your age, you look great.
Yes.
I heard this on my 40th birthday.
Yes. Has someone said to you, you look good for your age? And it, you know, again, it was funny to ask the seniors, the older adults at Silvera this question, because I said to them, has anyone said that to you? So the centenarian who was there, the lady who was 100 years old, said, oh, I get it all the time that when I tell them I'm 100, they go, oh, you look way younger. You look like you're 80, like 20 years younger, right? And everyone laughs and giggles. And it's absolutely important for us to also use humor, I guess, in those uncomfortable conversations, because that's, I think, it helps us have conversations at least. So I paused her and I said, so how do you think 100 years old looks like? How do you think a centenarian is expected to look like? How do you think an 80-year-old is expected to look like, or a 50-year-old is expected to look like, right? So the reason why we say you look good for your age is because the person is probably looking at you physically and thinking, oh, they're probably looking at the wrinkles, the gray hair, maybe the way that you dress, something about you physically from the outside, because they surely can't see the insides, right, of you. So they're assessing you from the outside, and perhaps also assessing you compared to their peers or people they know who might be around your age. And that's what we usually do as human beings, is that we form our judgments based on our general stereotypes of people of that age category. And so, for example, I've not had the opportunity to lie about my age. And in fact, I'm very open about telling people I'm turning 46 this year, which then comes to people sometimes will say, oh, you look good for your age, or you look younger than 46, right? But because I know this is my area of research and interest, then I am very cheeky and I say to them, so how do you think a 46-year-old is expected to look like? Which catches people off guard, right? Because usually they think when they say something like, oh, you look good for your age, you're going to laugh and go, oh, thank you, right? Because it's a compliment. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with people, you know, giving you a compliment, saying something nice, and you receiving it, and whatever your reaction is. I think there's, you know, we're not shaming anybody. However, I think we also need to be a bit more serious about this topic and think, why is it that people assume that everyone who's 50 is expected to look the same, or 100 is expected to look the same? And what is the downside of having this blanket of a stereotype about age categories? So according to the World Health Organization, every second person on this planet is actually ageist towards older adults. There's a lot of people on the planet, as we probably know, more than 8 billion, which means 4 billion people potentially on this planet have ageist views towards an older person. That is 1 in every 2 people, which means half of the people in this room today are potentially ageist. And this can be ageist towards other people, and it can be also ageist towards yourself, by the way. And I'll come to this in a minute. Every second person in the world is believed to hold ageist attitudes, usually towards older adults. What that does is that within the society that those people live in, it could lead to poorer physical, mental, emotional, overall lower quality of life and well-being of the older adults in that particular community or society that they reside in. So why this is important is because that's too many people, in my opinion, to be discriminatory towards people because of how old they are. So this is where I quiz you. Okay, so this is true and false. There are about 7 of them, and you can put T or F, true, T for true, F for false, in the chat. And I'd appreciate your responses. So first one, older adults are technologically challenged. And this could be something that you hear in your environment that you're working in or in the family that you're growing in as well. True or false? Older adults are technologically challenged. I'm not seeing the chat, but I
true
know
so
that we're all
far.
taking
Another
it.
true. 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 True.
Okay, so I'm assuming this is what you're hearing people saying, that older adults are technologically challenged. This is not what you think, correct? Because it is false.
Teach them stuff that they didn't know.
Yeah, thank you. So it is false. Older adults are increasingly becoming the tech-able generation, increasingly. Because think about it this way. I was born in 1978, and we had a Commodore 64 computer. And my dad, who was born in the 40s, had access as he was an adolescent to a computer, which meant by the time my dad grew as an adult, he had access to technology. So more and more, our older adult current, what we call the baby boomers, our current older adult generation, are actually tech able because they were born throughout their development, not born necessarily, but throughout their human development, they would have accessed technology, which meant that they are more tech able than we think they are. So when you look at your parents, for example, or older family members, you might think, oh, they look old, chronologically they're old. Surely they never had access to any technology before. But in fact, if you think about it, many of them may have. And of course, circumstances and context and socioeconomic backgrounds does definitely play a role in that. But generally, we're seeing more of them being tech savvy. My parents have cell phones, they have laptops, and they use iPads. And in fact, my mother has more apps on her phone than I do. And she calls her family back home in Iraq using, her cell phone. She has WhatsApp and Skype, and she has Facebook. I don't have Facebook myself. She has TikTok. I don't have TikTok. So it's really interesting to see some of our older adults who live around us, or who we serve sometimes. Most of them actually have cell phones, and most of them know, even if basic usage, they actually know how to navigate some form of tech gadget that they have. So this is actually false. They are not technologically challenged. The key, of course, as someone mentioned probably, is, do they want to use technology? And that's a whole different conversation. Older adults are resistant to change. True or false? What do you think? What do you think? Let's say that. What is your opinion on this? Is this true or false?
False, false.
I think it might be easier if I ask you what you think as opposed to what you hear.
3 falses so far.
Okay.
A true, a false, true.
So we're kind of mixed in
True.
what we think.
True. Yeah, it looks like a mixed pack.
Yeah. In general, they're not resistant to change, right? And again, this is an incorrect assumption that they do not want change. The key, again, every one of these questions, by the way, has maybe a slight, but or however, for sure. But in general, most older adults do embrace change. And the prime example is their physical health. As we're growing older, physically we're changing, vision is declining, hearing is declining, mobility is declining, but you still see a lot of older adults continue to thrive and continue to live life, which means they are great adapters to change. The key, as I mentioned, however, is that if you are asking them to adapt to something, is it something relevant to them? Is it something that is important to them? Is it something that is a key component in their life or brings their quality of life a bit high, a notch higher than it did before? Rather than assuming we know that this is important for you, why aren't you learning it? So for example, if I were to give my parents, let's say they weren't tech savvy. If I were to give my parents an iPad and say, Mom, you have to use this because it's important for you to know how to use online banking or online shopping. If it doesn't make sense to my mother, if it doesn't enhance her quality of life, if it doesn't add value to her life, I don't care what I say, my mother will not learn it. So sometimes forcing people to do something that we know and we think is right for them, but they haven't made that they haven't come to that realization, or they don't see it the same way as we do, they will not learn it no matter how much you force it onto them, for sure. However, the more you make a program or a service that you provide relevant to your client, the more they will embrace it and adapt it to their lives. It really just has to make sense to them. After 65, older adults don't have much to offer. What do you think?
False, 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 false. Heck no.
I love that. You're absolutely right. In fact, absolutely, it is false. Older adults do have a lot to offer. Now, again, I don't want to push this into this, assumption generalization kind of corner. However, if you get the opportunity to be curious about your older adult client's journey in life, everyone has a story to tell. There's no one that has no story to tell. As simple as that story might be to them, it's still a learning opportunity for us to know more about them and be more aware of what their life journey has looked like and how we can assist them the best. That is the best thing for you to do sometimes, is get to know your client really well, or get to know the older adult that you're working with or living with really well. They do have a wealth of knowledge to give. They have experiences that we haven't experienced before. They have ways of looking at life as a result of their long life that could help us understand better their perceptions in aging and their perceptions on what some of these programs look like, or how they impact or don't impact their life, right? So this is absolutely false as well. Older adults can't learn new skills. And we kind of address this a little bit. And there's this saying that I really don't like to... There's this saying that I don't really like to hear about, and I think is very disrespectful. You can't teach an old dog new tricks. It's a very Western saying. And you wouldn't catch anyone in the Middle East, where I come from, saying this to any older adult, because it's super disrespectful. First of all, you're comparing an older person to a dog. And second of all, it's tricks. What is this tricks, right? In itself, teach them tricks, I think, is also something disrespectful. And so there is this assumption in Western society that an older person cannot learn new skills. But we've already established older adults can and do want to learn. The key here, however, is this learning relevant to them? Does it make sense to them? Does it make sense to their cultural background? Or does it make sense to them as a general person as well? So for example, working with some older adults from the Akram Jum'ah Mosque in the Northeast, they want to know more about Islamic wills, for example. But if I were to go to them and teach them Tai Chi, it might not make sense to them. This is not what adds value to their life. So it's very important to understand who are the target audience or the clients that we're serving. What are their backgrounds like? And that's why I said be curious about them, about their journeys. And what is it that will be relevant and will make sense to them? That's when you'll see them showing up and attending your lessons, your programs, et cetera, your talks and whatnot. When they're not showing up as much, or they don't seem to find interest in them, you got to know that there's something going on there. Either it's not a relevant topic to them, or there are other factors that maybe we didn't consider that is hindering their attendance or their interest in this topic. Be curious about them. I had older adults from Silvera come to my classes at Mount Royal, and these older adults sat with my students, and they sat for 2 hours, almost 3 hours actually, with my students, and they didn't want to go. At the end, they said, do we have to go? And I said, you don't have to go. You can stay. You can come back again if you want to. They asked my students questions. What does it feel like to be a student in 2024? What is it that you kids, that's what they refer to them, want to do in life, right? So these older adults were very curious about growing up in this day and age. And then my students asked the older adults, what did you want to be when you were younger? And did you become that when you were an older person or when you grew older? What are some of your regrets in life? And I remember distinctively one of the clients from Silvera saying to my students, never be afraid to try something new. He said, that is my biggest regret right now. As my health is declining and I'm an older person, now I regret preventing myself from living life because I was always too afraid. What was going to happen if I did this? What was the consequences of doing this? And he said, I continued to scare myself from doing new things and trying out new adventures, that now that I'm at this age and at this physical health of mine, I can't do it anymore. So he said to them, never be afraid to live life and to enjoy adventures. And my students, they ate this information up. They absolutely appreciated it, which is why intergenerational conversations is actually one way to combat ageism. Ageism can negatively impact the mental health and physical health of older adults. True or false?
True, true, true. True.
You all are absolutely fantastic. It is true.
Oh,
actually.
one false.
Yeah. Ageism actually can impact your mental well-being, your physical well-being, because think about it this way. When you are discriminating against older adults and assigning a lesser value to them because they're 80 or 90, they're no longer good enough, they're not tech savvy, and they don't have value to give, they're not productive anymore. What that does is, for the older adult who's hearing or seeing or receiving this information from society, is they're believing it. I don't have anything to give. I am not of worthy. And I'll share this information in the slides with you as well, but it is absolutely detrimental to our quality of life and physical well-being when we think and believe that we are no more of value or no longer have value because of how old we are. And one of the main things that I would share with my students in my classroom is I will go to places where they sell birthday cards, and I'll pick birthday cards from these places. And these birthday cards for older adults and those nearing retirement are absolutely ageist. They mock older adults physically. They mock them cognitively. They mock them sexually. And people laugh about this, and they give their family members this. So what I did is I collected a stack of these birthday cards, and I shared it with my class. And I said to them, how many of you here will feel comfortable giving this to their grandparent or their parent? And none of them raised their hands. So I said, so why is it okay for us to continue to have these around us? How will I feel as a 70-year-old when I see a card mocking my cognitive capacity? I'm not going to feel good about it. And if my grandchild gives this to me, yes, having a sense of humor is nice. But how about if it impacts me, but I don't feel comfortable telling people that it impacts me? I always err on and again, from the Middle East, I would never be allowed to share something like this with my grandparents. It would be absolutely disrespectful to them, right? Immigrant older adults are less likely to experience ageism than native-born or Canadian-born older adults. What are your thoughts on this? And I have one more, true or false, after this. Immigrant older adults are less likely to experience ageism.
False. 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 True.
Okay. It is
Within
actually
Canada?
false.
Question mark.
Yes. Yes, Canada. Yeah. Born in Canada. So this is actually false. Immigrant older adults, even if they come from collectivist cultures, where they have intergenerational households, where there's supposed to be cultures that revere and honor and respect and look after their older adults, more and more, we're actually seeing immigrants are experiencing ageism and elder abuse as well. So just because a person comes from China or from Iraq or from India doesn't mean they're not experiencing elder abuse. And it doesn't mean they're not being discriminated against in their family or in their community because of their age. The more there's Western influence, social media, movies, songs, things like that, the more there's Western influence that's seeping into collectivist cultures and collectivist countries, the more the current generations or the younger generations are adapting these Western values and perceptions, and they're becoming less and less traditional, unfortunately. And this is research that has been happening and being done in China and Japan, and research on collectivist immigrants that are living in the US as well. Raising awareness and education about ageism can help reduce its prevalence and impact as well. True or false?
True, 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 true.
Final true or false?
True, 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 true.
Absolutely. True. Just by the mere fact that we're here talking about ageism means that you are a lot more aware, cognizant, and knowledgeable about the impact of ageism than someone who isn't. So education, ongoing training, ongoing conversations that are open and safe about our stereotypes and our biases, those should be all used to have helpful growth impact conversations that make your team and organization stronger than being quiet about it because we don't want to offend people, because we don't feel comfortable about having these conversations. When we're afraid to address these uncomfortable conversations, we will never be empowered. We will never be aware. We will never be educated, and we will never be able to help people overcome those experiences as a result of that. So inviting these conversations to happen in constructive, respectful, safe places is always, always recommended. So what ageism is it's discriminating against older people by the way that we think about them, the way that we feel about them, and the way that we behave or react towards them. So when you're thinking that Jill, who's 105, is hard of hearing, and so I have to start yelling when I talk to her and talk very slowly, that is very ageist. Because Jill probably has a hearing aid that is already able to hear you speak normally. And if I assume that my client who's 80 can't do an exercise program, so I'm not going to invite them, is ageist. Because I'm assuming that just by the mere fact that I know their chronological age, I know their abilities. My best friend is 48, and she is constantly complaining about her knees, backs, and shoulder. And her mother is 87, and I've never heard her mother complain about her physical health one day. So it's really interesting how sometimes the way that we jump into these, and these snap judgments, by the way, are very normal for us to do as human beings because time is limited. So when you have a client who's walking through your doors, you are within about 3 to 6 seconds, you're making assumptions and building a stereotype about that client. And this also goes for interviewers, by the way, as well. that first minute of interview, that person who's interviewing you has already made a judgment about you. And the same goes for our clients. We look at them and we make a judgment and assumption about them. And then it's up to us, if we want, in time to unravel these assumptions. But sometimes we don't have the resources and time to do that. So we have created a stereotype about our 80-year-olds, and we're just going to go with it until somebody actually says, hey, that's ageist. I actually can do it. Or that's ageist. You shouldn't be thinking about 80-year-olds like that. So ageism is how we feel, think, and behave towards people because of their age. And in this situation, it's older adults. Ageism impacts everybody. It's impacting you and me. It's impacting our children. It impacts our parents. It impacts us as a society and our organizations as well. And in particular, we think about ageism in the workforce, hiring and firing or letting go people because of their age. And ageism is in fact everywhere. It's in our healthcare system. It's even seen with social workers and nurses, by the way, and doctors who assume older adults are not sexually active because they're older adults. And in fact, older adults have a higher rate of STIs than the other adult categories because they are sexually active, but they're embarrassed to say they're sexually active because society says you should not be sexually active. So I make my students cringe sometimes and I tell them, do you know that your grandparents and parents are still doing it? And they're like, oh, we don't want to hear that. And I laugh and I say, but they are. They might be. And in fact, that's their right if that is quality of life for them. So there are actually various forms of ageism. There's personal ageism. And this is when you have a bias against people based on their age. Because they're 85, because they're 75, because they're 20, because they're 16. Remember, ageism can happen to younger people and it can happen to older people as well. And as I mentioned, ageism happens in institutions. During COVID, we saw a huge amount of ageism in that older adults who were older and have higher rates of chronic conditions were not given support systems like oxygen tanks because they had a lower rate of survival. That is hugely ageist. We have ageism at universities sometimes, ageism in organizations when we don't provide educational programs that meet the needs of our older adult populations. We have intentional ageism. And this is when we know this person is old and we therefore take advantage of that person because of their age. And then unintentional ageism. Compassionate ageism, if you've heard of that before, compassionate ageism took place considerably during COVID times. And this is when, due to your compassion and your love and your concern for the older person, you were doing everything for them, bathing them, feeding them, changing them, etc. I'll do it for you. And we had to pause and say, but what is that doing to that older person? It's telling them, you're not good enough to do it. I'll do it for you. You're not able. I'll do it for you. You're not independent anymore. So what we're doing with compassionate ageism is we were stripping away agency, control, and independence from older adults. We made them feel like they're not able enough to do these things. And sometimes that, as I said, is unintentional. It comes from a good place. But when I was working in senior living, for example, before I would do anything, I would ask the older adult client or resident, do you need me to help you? Can I help you? If you need me, I'm here to help you, as opposed to assuming they always needed my help just because there were older people living in retirement homes. So when we look at society and when they start communicating differently with older adults, for example, talking loudly, and you'd see that actually in healthcare, they would start almost yelling. And remember, a lot of these older adults, if they have hearing challenges, they would have hearing aids that are tuned to the right volume. If you start talking very slowly because you think you can't understand me, and this is usually also with our older adults who do not speak English as a main language, If you're talking in high pitch like a baby, you know how we talk to babies, oh, you're so cute, or use words of endearment like, oh, honey, you're so cute, or sweetie, and things like that. Those are all a no-no. That is demeaning. It's disrespectful. It's making older adults feel like you are treating them like children because of that belief that they're dependent on you and you need to look after them. And it's called infantilization, which is talking to older adults as infants, and elder speech, which is that you're talking to them in ways that are very disrespectful to them. Those are all big no's, by the way. And if you ask older adults, how would you like me? And that's what I would say, for example, to some of my staff members and team. Ask them, how would you like me to refer to you as? What would you like me to call you by? And if they say Bill, Bob, Jilly, Lily, that's Lulu, that's fine, as long as that's what they want you to call them by. Usually it's by their first name or Mr., Mrs., or whatever it is that they want you to call them. Ask them if you don't know, right? But to assume and use terms of endearment is actually a big no in senior living, but also in working with clients who are older adults. So I'd already mentioned compassionate ageism. There's a lot of research that came out during COVID saying that there was a high rise in this phenomenon and experience. And again, it could come from a good place. However, the consequence of that is that older adults had less confidence about their own abilities. So we know in senior living, when an older adult has a level of cognitive and physical and emotional ability that is this high, and if the healthcare worker that's working with them believes, because of stereotypes and biases, that my job is to look after you because you cannot do, it takes about less than a month, less than 3 weeks, for your older adults' abilities, cognitive, physical, etc., to start matching the environment that they're living in. So when you're always assuming less of a person, in time, they will give you less. So that's why I always would say in senior living, for example, I always challenge my older adults. If when you're doing an assessment about their abilities and needs and interests, always in time, assess and promote growth and top it up a notch. Because the more you're challenging them cognitively and physically in gradual steps and ways, the more you're actually benefiting them mentally and physically. Because the brain is a muscle, it needs challenges. When you're dealing with them as incapable, incompetent, and dependent, they will feel that way. It will impact their quality of life and their mental well-being. They will withdraw from society. They will withdraw social engagement, social connections. People don't want to be in environments that belittles them and devalues them. They won't even tell you. They'll just stop showing up. They'll stop coming to these things, right? So the impact of ageism on older adults or us in general, even if you have that ageist towards yourself, I'm too old to learn things. I'm not good enough to learn a new skill, right? That's internalized ageism. It actually impacts your mental health and well-being. It decreases your cognitive abilities. In fact, you'll have a higher rate of experiencing memory decline and being diagnosed with dementia or forms of dementia as a result of ageism in society. And then your quality of life actually goes down. Who wants to live in a society that doesn't value them or respects them or honors them? What do I have to look forward to now that I'm segregated or looked as a person who has no worth and value anymore? And as I mentioned, programs have less resources and funding, and they're less creative. Programs become boring. They become the usual. I asked some of my older adult residents at one point, who here wants bingo? Almost all of them don't want bingo anymore. Bingo is associated with this mind-numbing. I mean, there's nothing wrong with a good game of bingo every now and then. I enjoy bingo every now and then. But to make bingo the highlight of an older adult resident program is a big no-no. They want education. They want learning. They want to learn a new language. They want to learn how to cook. And you've got, Grandma's Kitchen, for example, new foods and new spices and they want excitement in life. You want excitement in life. I guarantee you, none of you here want to live a boring, bland life now. So why do you think you want to live a boring, bland life in your later adulthood life? So some of the suggestions on ways to address ageism are here. I have specific suggestions for you as immigrant serving agencies, but I'm just going to show you these suggestions here. The ongoing education is important. This is not a one and done kind of thing. The more you have new staff and the more that you have new clients, the more you need to talk to them about ageism as well, because it impacts them and it impacts you as well as a larger community. Encourage respectful, open dialogues about ageism and stereotypes in general. Promote intergenerational interactions. Have younger people and older people together. Sometimes it's the 80-year-old sitting with a 60-year-old. So we're not just talking about 80-year-olds and 20-year-olds. My centenarian who was 100 wanted to sit with an 80-year-old or 75-year-old. They're still older adults, but they're decades apart in terms of generations, right? So that could also actually be an intergenerational conversation. Inclusive practices are important. Inclusive programs, age-inclusive programs are important. And advocating for these programs and age inclusive initiatives are very important. And celebrate older people. Be curious about them. Involve them in this dialogue of, what is it that you want from us? What is it that you want to do? What is it that excites you? And how can we provide that for you? So as immigrant serving agencies, there are about 7 of these recommendations that I would have. And you are potentially might be doing that, some of these in some way, in some form. Cultural sensitive programs that are very compatible, that are very compassionate, of course. And this is to provide training to your staff and educate them. What are some challenges that my 80-year-old might be experiencing that prevents them from coming to this program? For example, there's a lot of sit yoga or sit tai chi or sit music. Don't do a lot of that. I had 85-year-olds that said, I don't want to sit down. Why do they think I want to sit down? Is it because I'm 80? Right? So promote that curiosity. If you want to sit down, you can sit down, but we're also going to adapt it to people who want to stand up too. Intergenerational programs, and we've talked about that, developing programs that foster interactions between people of all ages, the young, the middle, and the older. This could help promote this opportunity to break down these stereotypes. So when my students had older adults from Silvera coming to them, they asked them questions like, what does it feel like to be an 85-year-old? What did you want to be, right? And then the older adults ask questions too. And my students came out with this realization, I thought that all older people didn't want to be sitting with us. I thought that they didn't want to think about goals in life. And that helped us have this conversation about, why do we think about these things this way? Language has to be empowering. Language cannot look at older people as victims, as less, as poor them, right? Use language in your flyers and your posters and your training sessions that are strength-based and empowering rather than that deficit lens. I find that older adults are worried about being taken advantage of, and that's why they kind of shy away and they disengage from society. And sometimes it is ageism that plays a role in that. From that legal perspective, providing legal support and resources to help older adults, and in particular immigrants, navigate these complex systems and systems that promote their well-being, I think is very important. So for example, I did I had a conversation with Akram Jum'ah, people who came to the mosque, and because of the assumption that they were 85 and or 70 and 75 plus, for example, there was an assumption that we shouldn't give them information, let's say, about legal or financial literacy because it's too much for them to handle. They're too old to understand these things. And that's hugely ageist, right, in the assumptions. Any form of empowerment and knowledge you can give them is beneficial for them. Community outreach and education. And if you know me, you know I say you go to the people, don't expect the people to come to you. Stephanie, go ahead.
I just wanted to give you a time check here. Dr. Rose did it. Sorry. 2:50, and Elizabeth is also presenting here today.
Absolutely. Okay, thank you. And as I mentioned, having these collaborations that we're doing here is absolutely important too. So think of older people as knowledge wells and embrace, I think we should embrace our aging, and we should encourage people to embrace their aging and not underestimate their abilities and advocate for them as well. And if anything, think about it this way. This is actually research-based. There was a research that was done in the United States that actually suggested people who think positively about aging and growing older have a 7.5-year advantage of living longer than people who think negatively about aging or have a pessimistic or negative view about aging. And if anything, live life as an adventure, because it is one. Expect the change because it's inevitable to happen to all of us. Endorse it and embrace it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rose. That was wonderful.
Yeah, thank you so much. I just wanted to, as you mentioned, it was very insightful presentation on ageism. Now it's our pleasure to welcome Elizabeth, who will shed the light on the important issue of elder abuse. Elizabeth Lee is the founder and director of Power of Humanity Consulting Incorporated, and the newly, as she mentioned, newly appointed education coordinator with the Alberta Elder Abuse Awareness Council. For over 25 years, she has specialized in areas such as criminal justice education, diversity, inclusion, hate bias, conflict resolution, shares personal stories relating to empowerment and resilience. Prior to her launching her own consulting business, Elizabeth worked in law enforcement and was the lead diversity and inclusion facilitator with the Calgary Police Services. She has developed, coordinated, and facilitated award-winning internationally recognized programs for schools and communities that address the issues surrounding hate, bias, and the impact. Elizabeth also has extensive experience as a frontline worker in mental health and is a certified instructor for personal safety and self-defense. Elizabeth is certified in anti-racism, discrimination response training, and most recently developed workshops focusing on bias and assumptions, fostering inclusive spaces and inclusive leadership. These workshops has been in high demand among professionals in the school communities and corporate groups, prioritize safe and respectful spaces for all. In her spare time, it's interesting, Elizabeth loves to spend time with her son Renzo, and also a love for sports, fitness, and the outdoors. Over to you, Elizabeth.
Yeah. Thank you. Dr. Joudi, I was going to say, don't rush, because I was into it. I'm like, that was so good. And to be quite honest, everyone, I'm not going to share my screen. I don't have a PowerPoint presentation. I'm very aware of the time. So really, my focus today was to just introduce myself to the group. I have joined the group, so I will be here for the next, I think the agenda of the next few meetings have been sent out, so I have those scheduled. So as I mentioned to everyone, I am the education coordinator with the Alberta Elder Abuse Awareness Council. Perhaps one of the next meetings I can give more of a comprehensive overview in terms of the work that the council does, a lot of the initiatives we have. But again, just in light of time, I want to allow folks time to ask some questions and ask Dr. Joudi some questions, ask myself some questions. As it was mentioned in my bio, I spent 18 years as a civilian employee with the Calgary Police Service. So I was a part of the Diversity Resources Unit or /team, which had multiple name changes over the years. I know I spoke to Parminder at our training event on Monday. So some of you may be familiar with programs like You and the Law and different programs that we provide it with the community in the area of like fostering inclusive spaces and, diversity, inclusion, etc. So, please feel free, for those of you that have any questions, to ask me anything. Also mentioned in the bio, I do have my own consulting, my work in the area of diversity and inclusion. I'm still heavily involved in the area of hate, bias, discrimination. It's certainly one of my most favorite topics to talk about. So as I mentioned, I could have listened to Dr. Joudi. She was speaking my language there, so thank you, as per usual. But with the council, my role right now is going to be taking a look at some of their programs that are already developed. They've been around for quite some time. For any of you who are not familiar with the council, I would suggest, just for time, just to go on the website. It's www, maybe Stephanie, you can put it in the chat, but albertaelderabuse.ca. And on there, you'll find, training, resources, specifically focusing on taking action against elder abuse, which is, some of you were present at the training day on Monday that we hosted at the Kirby Center. And that's a program that I will be taking a look at, updating the material, putting more of that, EDI lens. I know that the terminology is changing, it seems like monthly, weekly, yearly, but looking at that, updating it, reviewing it. But what we do is we look at the 4R response model with that training, and that's recognize, refer, respond, reconnect. So for those of you that are interested in finding out more about the taking action against elder abuse, the purpose is to really help individuals, who work with people affected by elder abuse, to develop a common understanding and language that will support them in working collaboratively. So it's a really, really great session around, definitions. You go into legal pieces when it comes to elder abuse, everything from enduring power of attorney, personal directives, some different laws surrounding elder abuse. We go into definitions, some different, community mapping. Also, for those of you who are not familiar, we have a program, and I know Dr. Joudi is a facilitator for this, but it's the It's Not Right, Neighbors, Friends, and Family, which is more of like a bystander intervention training, focusing on educating and engaging bystanders. It was originated out of Ontario. And basically what we do is we teach neighbors, friends, and families to recognize warning signs and to be, become aware of steps. If you recognize a sign, maybe it's not your family member, but, you're having some concerns, how to be that active bystander. And so I know Dr. Joudi is a facilitator in that, as mentioned. We also have initiatives. There's some call for proposals right now for our Safe Suite initiative. But my role specifically, I guess, if I, again, only 3 months in, I'm still really navigating my role in this position, but I'll be spending a lot of time really supporting the rural folks. We have case managers throughout the province. We currently have 20 case managers throughout the province who support their CCRs, so their community coordinated response teams, and they're in rural communities. And as we know, in Calgary and in Edmonton, in the larger cities, there are more resources, there are more supports. And we can also argue that, saying, well, there's still not enough. We can probably all agree on that, but I think, as many of you are aware, in the rural communities, they have even less supports. So my focus will really be supporting those case managers throughout the rural communities throughout the province, finding out ways that we can support their demographics, because they're changing as well throughout a lot of our rural communities throughout the province, and spending some time seeing what I can do to help educate and provide some supports to those folks. So in a nutshell, because I know I really want to open up some, the room for questions. There's a lot of, amazing people in this room that probably have so much knowledge, and I'm sure have a lot of questions of Dr. Joudi and myself, but that's going to be my role in a nutshell. That being said, any of you in Calgary, if you need some support, if you're interested in some training or some more awareness in terms of what we do as a council, don't hesitate, to reach out to myself or, to any one of us. We're a brand new team. For years, it's just been Joanne Blinko, for those of you who are aware of Joanne. I don't know how she's done all this on her own for all these years, because she's hired myself as the education coordinator. And then we have a lady we just hired who's the Safe Suites navigator, as well as two ladies throughout the province. One who's the Indigenous navigation. She does like Indigenous liaison up in the north. And then we have an Indigenous liaison in the south. So they're doing a lot of work on the various nations, finding out ways that we can support them, build capacity, educate, provide more awareness in the area of elder abuse. So that's our team in a nutshell. We are looking at hiring another part-time support to focus on that It's Not Right neighbors, friends, and family training that I had mentioned, really just to have some consistency in gathering data and really just tracking a lot of this work that's being done. So in a nutshell, that's, some of the training that we have to offer. In my bio, for those of you that have any questions in terms of the work that I've done in the past, the work that I'm currently doing, I'd love to just kind of open up the floor and maybe allow folks to ask us some questions, both Dr. Joudi and myself, and I guess we can go from there. But I'll put my information in the chat, and I would love to have more of a conversation with those of you in the room. I know some of you, but I would love to even set up something virtual or in person. I'm here based out of Calgary, so I would love to connect with all of you. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Okay, Steph, you go.
Yes, so I guess we're just going to open the floor here, folks, to have a chance to just, if you have any questions for any of our presenters. We want to thank both Dr. Rose Joudi and Elizabeth for their presentations. Like we mentioned in the chat, we have been recording this, so we will share it with you. Especially if you, as Dr. Joudi was mentioning, you could share with your staff the information to help support them on their ageism journey. So we will have this recording you could use for that training purposes. Anyway, we would just want to open the floor to any questions or comments or insights or inspirations that happened when you were listening to the presentations. Any of the above.
Sorry, I just wanted to mention something with, regarding conversation and presentation of Dr. Joudi. When you were talking about all those things, like I was thinking of cultural components, like a lot of seniors in some of like culture, they feel that not just fail because the place that they grown up is like, okay, when you're at the age of 50, you have to be retired, you have to have your grandchildren, and then everything, and then it's a little bit shame or stigma to go to school, for example. It's very different than here. I can see people in Canada, like at any age, they go to school and learn something new, even go to SAIT and get the certificate. But with the different culture, we don't see that much like in seniors, immigrant seniors, because it's that when they come here, they when they talk about their like isolation, they feel shame and like to go because they feel that the same thing that they have it in their own country. They feel, oh, this is not okay to, at this age, even 50, just go learn something new. Not because they can't learn something new, but because of the cultural component. I just wanted to share that. And
you're absolutely right, Zita. But we're finding that more and more of our immigrant older adults are curious about the opportunities that are available for them. So it's not necessarily just providing them with education. It could be things such as learning or sharing their knowledge in something that they know, inviting them to teach other people in your organization something that they're really proud of and that they know about. So even when we're talking about ageism, it's really breaking down barriers that older people don't have anything to give, not just to receive, right? But I absolutely agree. When it's not something normal in the culture, people are very hesitant about it. And I would say the same thing about not-for-profit or social agencies. Some people come from immigrant backgrounds in which having a not-for-profit or a social support agency like yours is not a norm in their culture. And it's only people who are really in dire need that don't have a family to hold their back. They are the only ones, the poor ones, who get access to this. And so when they come to Western society and there are all these agencies, some of them feel ashamed to even approach you because they come from that cultural mindset of, I have a family, I'm not in dire need to seek that help. But they don't know that you're there to help all older people regardless of their abilities, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. When you started talking about how you envision when you're older, what life's going to be like, that was such a great activity. For me, I had I don't know if it's a negative reflection of my life right now, but I thought to myself, I hope I have time to do all my hobbies and work out. And so I guess more of a positive outlook. And also when you started talking about just the biases and the greeting cards, I never even thought about whenever now I go to buy a greeting card, I'll be looking at them with different eyes for sure. So thank you so much for both of you for your presentations. I think it's really a great conversation to start and to get people to think differently about things that are just there in our society in terms of how we think of older adults.
And you're absolutely right, Rebecca. Even when we see things outside in the wild, and we become so desensitized and used to it, right? And that's the danger zone right there, because we get too familiar and too comfortable with how things are that we might not pay attention to, is this actually something that is good, beneficial, helpful? Is it detrimental? So after having conversations about ageism in my class, for example, I would have students every now and then email me from semesters ago about a card that they came across that made them think about the class that they took with me whenever, right? And that makes me very proud of them. It makes me happy that I'm at least sharing some of that knowledge with some of these students who it could have an impact on how they think. And I would always say to them, if you're ageist towards older people, then you're ageist towards your future self, because that's you in 50, 70, 60 years time, right? So how would you like to be treated? And always think about that.
And thank you, Stephanie, for putting that in the chat. I know we're keeping people longer than we said we would. So thank you so much, everyone, for sticking around too. And if you want to maybe take a look at the chat, Stephanie has posted our survey. It would be wonderful to get your feedback and ideas so you can help us shape the future interagency meetings. If there are any questions that maybe pop up later on during the week, maybe you can feel free to send it to us. We'll connect you with Elizabeth and Dr. Joudi. And also, I know we haven't had time to do more of a round or further updates, but I think when everyone introduced themselves, they talked about what they do and maybe projects that they're working on. But if there are any events or anything that you left out that you'd like us to share with the network, just maybe email it to us. I think most of you might have received my email, but I'll put it in the chat as well. Asita, any closing thoughts or remarks? Okay, there we go.
Thank you so much. No, I don't think we'll have, but I think we are for our next meeting will be in August, I believe. And do you have, Stephanie, do you have the exact?
August 28th. Let me just, it should be the same Zoom code. So when you put into the Zoom code, there is the next 5 sessions. We had switched it every second month because that's what everybody had voted on the last survey. was every second month was better. So when you look at that registration link, that Zoom link, it has all of them there, and it's going to be the same meeting room to come in too.
Yeah.
So
thank you. And I really appreciate if you have any suggestion for this group, like to how we go forward, like that would be great. If you have any suggestion, please let us know. You can send us email, Rebecca or Stephanie or myself, and then for the future meetings, maybe, yeah, we can just do different things. Of course, we want to go somewhere and then start the point like, okay, now what we have to do for the immigrant seniors. And if you have any suggestion, please let us know. It would be great. Thank you.
also, as per popular request, we're going to get a group chat going. We were going to host it in Teams so that folks can share things back and forth in the times that we don't have meetings. So the Immigrant Senior Sector Connections group here will let you know what that looks like here as we come up. So I think with that, we're mostly wrapped up. Unless anybody wants to share anything they have coming up for the summer, I think we could let everybody be on their day here. And thank you for attending. And we look forward to seeing you after the summer. We'll keep you in the loop of the next themes we're planning for the fall. And we'll send you out the recording of this one.
Thank you.